Hey there, listeners. Welcome to the Brand Marketing Show. Kath Langman here, your host for this show. Now, we talk a lot on this show about consumer behavior and about the intersection between how customers make their buying decisions, how we communicate to our customers to influence those buying decisions, and of course, the digital marketing platforms that facilitate those communications and those purchases. Realistically, only one of those three things changes on a continuous basis, and that's the digital platforms themselves. So if you can really nail the other two components, you are a very long way towards succeeding in your business. And so that is what this episode is going to be all about. The thing is, your best customer as a premium brand is running a background check on your brand before she's ever going to buy. She doesn't tell you she's going to do it. She might not even know that she's doing it, might be subconscious. But before she's going to pay full price, before she's going to choose your brand over perhaps a cheaper option sitting next to it on the shelf, she quietly checks four things. And even if one of them comes back weak, she's not going to argue with you about it. She's not going to email you to explain. She just doesn't buy. Or, and this is the one that really costs you, she buys, but only once you have discounted, which means you've taught her that the full price was actually never the real price anyway. So I want to walk you through those four checks today because I think once you see this, you won't be able to unsee it. And more to the point, you'll be able to start working out which one is the thing that's quietly costing you money in your business right now. But first, I want to hark back to a wee bit of marketing history. When I studied marketing at university, which was quite some time ago now, there were the four P's of marketing. This is, kind of how we learnt about the components of a marketing plan and how you would put this together or make these, plans for your business. And so the four P's were the product, the price, the place, which was considered the distribution channel, and promotion. And these were the things that we were examined on and tested on, and we had to produce marketing plans for businesses and real and pretend. They're probably still taught, it's very traditional mass marketing, right? And for a certain kind of business, one that is competing on shelf space and volume, trying to get an acceptable product in front of as many people as possible at the sharpest possible price. I mean, those four Ps hold up perfectly well. But if you are building a premium brand, I actually want you to forget them because the four Ps that I learned at uni were designed to help a business, a mass distribution business. They're going to be competing on price. They're going to be competing on, distributing through really major channels like supermarkets and, chemists and big box retailers and things like that. And competing on price is the exact thing that you're trying not to do as a premium business, premium brand. So the four Ps that decide whether a premium brand scales or quietly stalls are actually completely different ones. Something I find fascinating after 26 years of this. They're not really my framework at all. They're a description of what your customer is already checking, and I've just given them names. So let me give you the names, and then we'll go through each one of them at a time. So my four Ps of building and scaling and growing a premium brand are point of difference, point of view, purpose, and a premium pricing strategy. So these are the four marketing foundations. And then a fifth thing holds all of them together. And I'm going to come to that towards the end because it is one of the things that I see most people getting wrong with their marketing. All right, so let's start with point of difference because this is the one that I think so many brand founders are most confident that they've already nailed, and they often haven't. So I mean, I'm talking to founders every day, some existing clients and some who, book in for strategy sessions with me. And when I ask a founder what makes their brand different, 9 times out of 10, the answer is about the product. It's better made, better ingredients, better design, better service, better quality. And I believe them because, it usually is better. But here's the problem. Better is a claim that every single one of your competitors is also going to be making. And your customer, therefore, has no way of verifying that from the outside. She's standing in front of your product or, looking at your website and probably looking at a bunch of alternatives as well. And they're all going to be saying, high quality, premium quality, carefully crafted, or similar kind of statements. And she genuinely can't tell from the label which one is telling the truth. I mean, they're probably all telling the truth, but what difference does it make, right? A real point of difference isn't that your product is better, it's that your brand is structurally hard to replicate. There's something about how you do what you do, whether it's a specific expertise or a proprietary approach or a combination of things that no one else has put together at this point in time, or a way of operating, that a competitor with more money than you simply could not copy next quarter. So that's the test I really want you to hold your own brand up against. If a well-funded competitor could replicate your entire point of difference in 90 days, it really isn't a point of difference. It's a feature for sure, but features get copied and then commoditized and then discounted. Have a think about the brand RM Williams. If you're Australian, at least you should know that brand. Their point of difference isn't that they make a good boot. I mean, plenty of people make a good boot. Oh, let me pause. My puppy dog wants out. Anyway, so plenty of other brands make a good boot as well. But with RM Williams, it's that a single craftsperson makes each pair a very particular way. And the brand has a heritage and a story that's taken generations to build. And you just can't buy that off the shelf. I mean, you can absolutely copy the silhouette, but you can't copy the rest of it. You can't copy the way they craft or the 80 years of heritage that they have built. That's their moat. So the customer's silent check here is fairly simple. Is there genuinely nothing else quite like this, or is this just a nicer, dearer version of something I could get elsewhere for less? If the honest answer is the second one, realistically, no amount of ad spend is going to fix it because you're paying to drive traffic to a decision the customer is probably going to keep making against you. Now, the second check is a point of view, and this is one about the exact opposite instinct to the one most founders have. Most brands, I think, these days are terrified of alienating anyone. I mean, and I totally get it. Like being visible online and, social media in particular, it's very, very easy to uh, receive feedback if you offend people, right? So a lot of brands end up kind of sanding every edge off their messaging until it's completely smooth and also completely forgettable. And the point here is they're just trying not to offend anyone, right? But it might be statements like quality you can trust, or beauty that works, or thoughtfully made. But these are not points of view. It's just kind of wallpaper. It's a bit bland. And it's the branding equivalent of saying nothing very pleasantly. A point of view is an actual opinion about your category, about your customer or your craft. It's a position that some people will disagree with, but that's actually the whole point, because a real point of view repels the wrong customer just as efficiently as it attracts the right one. Have a think about this is a well-known brand, Zoe Foster Blake's Go-To skincare. So when Zoe Foster Blake built Go-To, she didn't do it by being completely inoffensive. and, trying to appeal to everyone. She did it with a specific, funny, slightly irreverent take on an industry that mostly tends to talk down on women. Plenty of people find that voice too much. Those people were never going to be that customer. But the people who love it feel like the brand was built by someone who finally gets them. Because that's what your customer is actually checking. When she reads your brand, not is this nice, she's checking, does this brand see the world that I do, the way I do? Was this made by someone who understands me? She isn't only buying a product, she's buying evidence that a brand shares her values and her taste. A strong point of view is that evidence. A brand with no point of view gives her nothing to, hang her hat on, really, nothing to belong to. So she has no reason to pay a premium to belong to it. Now, the third check is purpose. And I do need to be a little bit careful here because purpose has been thoroughly hijacked by marketing that most people now hear the word and kind of reach for the mute button. It's a bit like, organic, which has been totally greenwashed as a word, right? But if I draw a clean line under here, there's performative purpose, and then there's genuine purpose. And your customer, a premium customer, can tell the difference from across the room. Performative purpose is a badge added at the end. It might be a vague line about sustainability on the about page, or a cause slapped on top of a business that would probably operate in exactly the same way without it. It's just a marketing layer. Genuine purpose is an operating constraint. It's the thing that shows up in decisions that cost you something, right? It's the customer you chose not to sell to. It's the cheapest supplier that you turned down. It's the product you won't make, even though it would sell because it doesn't sit right with what you're actually here to do. Who gives a crap? That brand that I was talking about recently. Add we care about, they didn't add we just care about the world. That's not a tagline that they use, but the entire business exists to fund sanitation, and that purpose dictates where the profit goes before anyone gets to argue about it. And you can really feel the difference, and so can your customer. I mean, you don't have to have a huge profit sharing purpose in the same way as who gives a crap. That's not what I'm saying here. But what I am saying is that it's worth seeing what it costs when a brand loses its purpose, because you don't have to be a scrappy startup for this to bite. Have a think about Nike. I think we all know Nike as a sportswear and sports shoe brand. Nike didn't begin actually as a sneaker company. It began with a running coach and one of his athletes making better shoes for serious runners on a track in Oregon. I don't recall the name of the book, but there is a book that would be, I can't remember if it's an autobiography or just a biography, but written by one of the founders. Anyway, Nike was serving the athlete, or serving the athlete was the entire point of the brand. If you have a body, you are an athlete wasn't a line they focus grouped. It was the reason the company existed. And for decades, it drove everything they made and everyone they made it for. But then over the last several years, Nike drifted. The focus moved away from the serious athlete and towards pushing as much lifestyle product to as many people as possible. The endless retro releases, the hype drops, the shift to selling direct at volume rather than in physical stores. And the further Nike moved from the athletes it existed to serve, the weaker it got in the very place it had once been untouchable. By 2024 and 2025, the cost was undeniable. This is a public company, so we can all look at the numbers, right? Nike was losing actual runners to brands like On and Hoka, who won by doing the disciplined thing Nike had walked away from, and that being obsessing over serious athletes and genuinely innovating for them. Star athletes started signing elsewhere. Eventually, the company pulled a long-time insider out of retirement to run it, and his entire turnaround plan reduced to a single idea. Put the athlete back at the center, go back to the purpose. It's a pretty brutal lesson, and it isn't only about having a cause. I think purpose is a discipline about who you exist to serve. The moment you try to be the brand for everyone, you start being the brand for no one in particular. So a company with almost limitless resources learned that the hard way. A premium brand your size probably can't afford to learn it that way. Your customer's silent check is this: when no one's looking, does this brand still mean it? Considered buyers in particular are exquisitely tuned to this. They have been marketed at their whole lives, and they can smell a purpose that's been bolted on for the campaign, where genuine purpose earns a kind of trust that no advertising can manufacture. And that trust is a huge part of what makes someone willing to pay more, come back, and tell their friends. Which brings me to the fourth check, and it's the one that a lot of founders find hardest to hold their nerve on, and that is a premium pricing strategy. Now, premium pricing is not just simply charging more. It's understanding that your price is not just a number, it's also a signal. Your customer reads your price as information about your quality. It's a quality judgment before she's touched the product, before she's read a single review. And this is where a lot of brand founders quietly end up sabotaging themselves and their business. They underprice because maybe they're nervous, because they see a number of competitors are cheaper, or because it feels safer. And they think they're removing a barrier to purchase. But what they're actually doing is signaling. And it's actually a confusing signal for the customer, because a price that's too low for a premium product doesn't get read as great value. It gets read as something must be wrong with this. And, discounting or constant reflexive discounting is the most damaging version of this same mistake. If every discount you send is a message, and the message is the real price was never real, you didn't believe it either. ESOP is a great example here, and I come back to this from time to time because they simply don't play that game. They don't discount their way through the marketing calendar. They hold their price with total conviction, and that conviction is itself part of what signals the quality. The price is not apologizing. The price is confirming. So the customer's fourth check is, does this price make sense for what the brand is claiming to be, or is the discount quietly telling me what it's really worth? Pricing held with conviction confirms the story, whereas pricing that constantly apologizes contradicts it. And customers believe the price over the marketing every single time. So those are the four: point of difference, point of view, purpose, and premium pricing. And here's the fifth thing that holds all of those four together, and the one I promised you almost everyone gets wrong. Because you can have all four of these foundations genuinely in place and still plateau. And the reason is almost heartbreakingly simple. The four foundations are invisible until you tell the story of them. Your customer only runs her checks on the information you actually give her. She can't see the 80 years of heritage if you never tell her or show her. She can't feel your point of view if your captions sound like everyone else's. She can't tell your purpose is genuine if you've buried it on a page she will never visit on your website. And she certainly can't understand why your price is what it is if you've never made the case. Most premium founders dramatically undertell their own story, and I don't think it's from laziness. It can be because they're too close to it. Particularly if you feel like you've been saying the same things over and over again. So it's, everyone's heard it and they don't need to hear it again. It's boring. The point of difference feels so obvious sometimes from the inside that brand founders assume it's obvious from the outside too, but it often just isn't. And when you leave a gap in the story, the customer just, doesn't leave it blank. She fills it in with assumptions. What's that saying? You should never assume, because it makes an ass out of you and me. So the storytelling isn't decoration on top of the four foundations. It really is the thing that makes the four foundations legible to the one person whose opinion decides whether you scale or not, being your customer, right? So let's bring this home for today because I don't want to leave you with a lovely framework and no idea what to do with it. So here's how I want you to use the four checks. When a premium brand plateaus, when the growth just stalls despite everything that you're doing, all the ads, all the emails, the new platform you're being told you have to be on, all the optimizations and the ad spend, etc., etc., etc. The instinct is to reach for another tactic, but a plateau is almost never a tactics problem wearing its own clothes. It's a foundations problem wearing a tactics costume. When I sit down with a founder whose brand has stalled, the stall almost always traces back to whichever of these four that they're personally least comfortable with. The founder who hates seeming arrogant will undertell her own point of difference. The one who doesn't want to alienate anyone has, no expressed point of view. The people pleaser underprices and over discounts. The gap in the business is usually a gap in the founder first. I'll give you a live one from my own brand. With Indagare, my skincare brand, our weak foundation for a while was the pricing signal and the story around it. And, we'd introduced some lower price discovery sets for a very good reason to reduce the anxiety of, purchasing skincare online without being able to try it first. But without meaning to, those entry level products were they were priced at a point that was doing the choosing for us, and they were pulling in very price-led first purchases. And the premium customer we actually wanted was just self-selecting downwards, buying the cheap way in and then stopping there. So the product wasn't the problem. The point of difference was fine. The foundation that was letting us down was that pricing strategy and the story that we were telling around it. And so once we corrected that and partly leading with the full priced hero products, but also reframing those entry level products as travel sized, that let the premium buyer meet the brand at its real level, and the business grew substantially over the 12 months that followed. So same products, same quality, but a corrected foundation. That's what this framework is for. It's not something to admire in theory. It's to be used to diagnose. And so here's what I would love you to do this week. Take your own brand and hold it up against the four checks and honestly look at it the way your customer would. What's the point of difference? Is there truly nothing else like you? Or are you just a nice version of something that is available elsewhere? Point of view, do you actually stand for something? Do you have an opinion that you're expressing, or is your messaging just really bland, like wallpaper? What about a purpose? Would it survive someone looking really closely? And then, of course, premium pricing. Does your price confirm your quality, or does it apologize for it? And then the fifth question, of course, are you actually telling the story of all four, or are you assuming your customer can see what only you can see? One of them will be weaker than the others. It always is. And that weak one is likely where your growth is leaking out. Of course, if you would like my help working out which foundation is costing you the most and what to do about it, that's exactly what we do in a brand growth strategy session. Just so you know, this is not a sales call dressed up. It is a proper look at your brand. We can look at it against these four foundations. And, it's designed to leave you knowing precisely where the gap is and what fixing it looks like. Sometimes Productpreneur might be the right fit to help you fix it, but not always. But you'll know. And if you'd like to book that, you will find the link wherever you're listening or over at productpreneurmarketing.com. So have a think about your four this week. I really want you to get honest with yourself about which one you might have been avoiding or which one is the leak in the leaky bucket, because that is usually the one worth fixing first. That is it for today's episode. I hope you've really enjoyed it. Please share it if you know another brand founder who really could use this information. Otherwise, I, as always, look forward to being back in your ears again this time next week. Bye for now.